so nice. Bit of 1980s tension. Oh, what the f... Welcome to another whiskey review with me, the Whiskey Novice. Thank you for joining me for review number 132 in a series in which we're looking at some 18-year-old single malt Scotch whiskies. This time we head over to Knockdhu distillery. They're owned by Ember House in the Highlands. This one, the AnCnoc 18. Matured over 18 years, ex-bourbon, ex-sherry. Bottled at 46%, non-chill filtered and natural colour. Now that is, I think you'll agree, a cracking natural colour. That, I would suggest, we are looking at some incredibly active casks there. Because if that's, I know 18 years is quite a while, but even still, you'll still see pale whiskey after 18 years. That's a great colour, I think, just to be natural. I think it's a great colour. So, if we're ready, shall we just jump into this one? Let's. Now, yet again, I find deep, dark and sort of rich, kind of old school sort of nose originally. When I say old school, I mean it noses like an old whiskey sort of thing. It's an 18-year-old whiskey. I don't mean it like that. I mean whiskey of yesteryear, if that makes sense. That it doesn't feel like a lot of the more modern whiskies. I know that I'm maybe not describing that very well, but for me it just has a nose of the old, when I started drinking many years ago, started drinking alcohol and how whiskey smelt to me. So that's what I mean by it. But it doesn't, I suppose, mean anything to you because it's a smell that I know. Now, I've said the other thing I've said recently about an awful lot of whiskies is I've been talking about balance a lot, and this is another example of a very, very well balanced whiskey. I think there's nothing overplays the other here. When I looked at that colour, I actually was expecting a bit of a sherry bomb. I don't know why. It's just when I see a real deep, dark colour like that, I generally think that the sherry has overplayed. But it doesn't in this case, and once again, neither does the ex-bourbon. They just play very, very well together. It's proof where it needed that the people behind this are very highly skilled and know exactly what they're doing. This is a prime example of distillers, blenders, knowing what they're doing and getting it right, in my opinion, of course. Now, there are individual things that it does play on its own. I get, and I'm weirdly, I don't know why I didn't get it before, but one of the first things I got when I nosed it here in front of you was a cola, quite a strong cola. But there's also aniseed, cinnamon, blackcurrant, dark chocolate. There's fruity notes, but sort of muted sweet notes. There's also orange. It's like marmalade. The oak is present there. You can smell that age and oak on it. And it's very tangy and a slight funky. It's different. Yet again, it's a different whiskey. But that tang, that sharpness is there all the time. I said about marmalade. Weirdly, all those like cola and marmalade notes and all that there work well together. But they create this strange tang. Very soft, sour delivery. There's not a lot of sweetness in this initially. That cola that I said, I don't know if it's just because I now have that in my head. I get it straight away on the palate as well. It's rich, it's quite dry, it's not overly coating, but neither is it thin. definitely not oily. Yeah, dry. Quite astringent almost. It's, once again, it's no sherry bomb, but now those sherry notes become a little more prominent. Weirdly, and I still think this about this, whether it's that cola note, but weirdly this reminds me a little of bourbon. That sort of sweet thing with acetone, but just in the background. It's right in the background, but it's weird. It is like a background note of bourbon. Now I'm not talking about bourbon cask, I'm not talking about vanilla coconut in that way, you know, but just it just reminds me of a hint. There's like a hint of bourbon at the back of it. Not any particular bourbon, just of bourbon. It's very tangy. Ginger cake, chocolate raisins. This is a challenging whiskey. It really is. It's so dry at the back of the palate. But there's so much flavour and so much going on before it gets that length. But weirdly, the sweetness, as I said earlier, the sweetness doesn't play through in this whiskey. On the, you know, it still hangs around like I said earlier, cinnamon notes. There's still a hint of aniseed. Yeah. Nice, definitely a challenge. Finish. Because it goes so dry so quickly. Finish feels sort of medium to short, but once you I know that once you take your time over this one, acclimate yourself to it, that finish does start to work. That cinnamon carries through, hint of aniseed carries through. Still dry, but flavoursome. Blackcurrant hangs around at the end. So there's plenty going on. It's just different. Not the whiskey I was expecting. Once again, I've said it before. Don't know what I was expecting, but I think once I seen that colour and just thought, well, there's going to be sherry at play here. There is sherry at play, of course there is, but it's just the balance that takes the sherry bombness of it, if that's a and a touch of water there, and these were notes that I was getting earlier. There's a touch of liquor. It's almost, now I was saying about bourbon, there's almost a rye hint off the nose, like a good rye whiskey. Very fruity. Red currant. It's bold. It's tangy once again. It's still challenging, but still nice. We do like a challenge. I didn't add a lot of water there, but I know it likes water. This, for me, it takes a bit of water, because the addition of that water just makes the palate so much more unctuous, makes it more moorish, it makes you want to go back. It takes a touch of the dry edge off it. Still that lovely aniseed running through it, gingerbread. Yeah, it actually becomes a little more malty. The finish improves with the water, definitely. Because it doesn't dry so quick, the orange becomes stronger. That marmalade that I was talking about earlier. I think it's just the way this feels that makes you want to go back for more, because it doesn't feel, I think it feels quite clean. it's so dry. Yeah, this is a challenge. This is a challenge, but a good challenge. And as I said, we do like a challenge. Don't be children. So I think, would I recommend it? Of course I would recommend it. This is a good one. This is a good one. And one to take your time over. Let it rest. Let it settle. And you will be rewarded. It's a good one. And one I look forward to enjoying further. So let's just move on, shall we? Yes, different, funky. Well, not really funky, but tangy. Different. At first, I struggled to think of a whiskey that I could compare to this. One that I could recommend to you. But then, like a bolt from the blue, and it did actually come, and I thought, well, of course, because this whiskey, I also thought different. I also thought tangy. I also thought challenging, but also rewarding, and it's this, the Glenturret 12-year-old. If I would almost nearly recommend, or nearly guarantee, sorry, that if you've had a Knock 18, you've probably already had a Glenturret 12-year-old. This, the 2021 edition. But if you haven't, I would definitely recommend, if you enjoyed a Knock 18, the Glenturret 12-year-old, because that, as I said, that tanginess, that kind of off-the-wall thing about it, where it's not just a run-of-the-mill whiskey, doesn't taste like any standard Highlander, it's just that bit different. So yeah. See, the black currant now is now hanging around in that finish, so the finish is longer, stronger. So yes, if you have a Knock 18, enjoyed a Knock 18, and you haven't tried a Glenturret 12-year-old, and the other thing to remember is that this AnCnoc 18 comes in around the 75 to 85 pounds mark. Now granted, the Glenturret comes in around the 65 pounds mark, I think, from memory, 60 to 65. Yes, the AnCnoc's 6 years older. Yes, it's got the age, etc. 75 to 85 pounds for the AnCnoc. Yes, all day long. I think it's a great price. I will throw a link up to my review for the Glenturret 12, and you can make your mind up there about what I thought about price, etc., etc. But yes, certainly, this AnCnoc 18, yes. Yeah, I do like a challenging whiskey. This is one that I would like, and it's all about, to me, and the more I talk about it, and the more I drink it, the more I enjoy it, and the more it's all about what happens late in the palate. The arrival is as I said earlier, soft, sour. But then it just blossoms. And this spark comes from it and it just comes to life. Not that that arrival's bad, but just soft and sour and then etc. etc. So I'll stop now, otherwise I'll talk it down in some way, shape or form. So yes, thank you for joining me once again. I would recommend the Knock 18. Thank you very much to my patrons. If you wish to join that group, the details are below. I will be back next time with something else. Until then, here's your good health, my friends. Cheers. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.